I bought my dream home secretly, but discovered my parents gave it away to my sister's family. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I sat on the edge of my bed, the walls closing in on me. I had spent months planning for that house, imagining how it would feel to finally have a place to call my own. A sanctuary filled with laughter, warmth, and memories. But as I clutched that glossy brochure, the colors suddenly blurred through my tears. I was in the middle of fighting against the world, and yet here I was blindsided by betrayal. My parents, the people who were supposed to have my back, had taken that dream and handed it over to my sister's family. Her, the golden child with her perfect husband and their two adorable kids. My stomach twisted. Mom said it was the perfect fit for them. It made sense. They needed room. But what about my dreams? The late nights spent scouring listings. The whispered conversations under the stars, planning the life I envisioned. It all felt ripped away. I had pictured hosting Christmases there, serving trays of steaming cookies, feeling the warmth of my family gather around. Now that dream lay cold and in pieces at my feet. My palms trembled as I recalled the day I signed the papers. The excitement had coursed through my veins, a palpable buzz. The keys had jangled in my pocket, a melody of hope. But I never imagined that my excitement would become a grim shadow hanging over me. I could hear my mom's voice, soft and calming, but it felt distant now. How could she do this? I thought she understood. I thought she believed in me. I recalled the night we sat on the couch, her hands warm around a mug of tea, telling me how proud she was of me, how far I'd come. But did those words mean nothing? I slammed the brochure down. The paper crumpled under the weight of every unshed tear, every unvoiced plea. My chest tightened. The sound of laughter echoed outside, a reminder of what I'd lost. My sister's family was already moving in, filling the rooms with joy I had imagined for myself. It felt like a knife twisting, each laugh a jab into the wound. Suddenly a knock at the door. The sound pierced the quiet like a gunshot. My hands shook, my heart was a drum. Who could it be? My pulse quickened. The familiar voice calling out made the silence deep, heavy. My sister? My parents? I hesitated, the world around me fading, everything narrowing down to that single moment. The door felt like a barrier, but what lay beyond it could change everything I thought I knew. I took a deep breath as I reached for the door handle. What would I say? Would the truth finally spill out? Or would I slip back into silence, letting them dictate my fate once more? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The door slid open to reveal a figure I didn't expect. My neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. I blinked in confusion, taken aback by her presence. She stood there, hands clasped tightly around a plate of cookies, her silver hair catching the soft afternoon light. I thought I'd come over and welcome you to the neighborhood, she chirped, her voice warm but tinged with curiosity as her eyes danced over my disheveled appearance. Thanks, but my voice cracked. How could I face her? How could I face anyone? Mrs. Henderson stepped inside, almost as if she sensed that I needed her company. You all right, dear? I'm fine, I lied, forcing a smile that crumbled the moment it formed. She set the plate down on my bed, the sweet aroma mixing with the tense atmosphere in the room. You know, when I moved here years ago, I thought my hopes were misplaced too. But this place brings magic if you let it. I nodded, fighting back emotion. Magic? There was no magic left for me. The very essence of my dream home now belonged to someone else. The walls around me felt like a prison, the future I envisioned slipping further from my grasp. I'm sorry to intrude, she continued, her eyes softening. I just wanted to make sure you didn't feel alone. And suddenly, between the betrayal of my family and my sister's cheer, the warmth of her kindness pushed against the ice encasing my heart. I couldn't fight it anymore. Tears cascaded down my cheeks, uninvited yet undeniably cathartic. Oh, Mrs. Henderson, I mumbled, trying to speak through the sobs. I don't know what I'm going to do. She moved closer, wrapping her arms around me, and I found solace in her embrace. The world outside of my walls melted away for that moment. Whatever it is, dear, you don't have to face it alone. Her gentle words calmed my frayed nerves, if only slightly. It was a small moment of hope, an unexpected kindness amidst the storm of my life. As the tears slowed, so did the overwhelming tide of despair. But the truth remained like a dark cloud, hovering over me. There was part of me that felt guilty for leaning into her support when my family had caused this pain. Later, Mrs. Henderson left, reminding me to drop by any time I needed a listening ear. I sat silently on my bed, staring at the crumpled brochure, the dreams I had nurtured now mingling with the ache of reality. And then, just as I was about to pick it up, my phone buzzed, breaking the silence. I glanced at the screen. A message from my sister popped up, unprompted. "Hey, just wanted to let you know Mom and Dad are visiting tomorrow. I hope you can come over. We'd love to spend some time together." The word struck every nerve. "Hope you can come over" felt like a knife twisting into my already raw emotions. She was inviting me to the life they had deemed more deserving than mine. I stared at the message, paralyzed by the decision weighing down my spirit. This was what my dreams had morphed into, a misplaced sense of family loyalty. What would I even say? What would I feel? That tiny flicker of hope from earlier began to dwindle as I contemplated the meeting. But amidst doubt, a small voice tugged at me, urging me to confront this head-on. The room felt smaller as I debated my course of action, breathing unevenly. I clutched my phone tighter, torn between acceptance and anger. I had done everything to be trusted to earn my place, and yet felt like I was always in my sister's shadow. As I snapped myself back to reality, a thought lodged itself in my mind. Did my parents even truly know me? Did they misjudge my capabilities? The question spiraled, a relentless whirlpool threatening to drown me. Before I knew it, my fingers were flying across the screen as I began to type my response. But just as I hit send, a notification lit up my phone. Another message, utterly unexpected. This one from my mom. "Can we talk tonight? It's important." My breath hitched. What did she want? The ominous weight of the unknown hung in the air, thick with anticipation. The heartache that had simmered under my skin roared back to life. A tight knot formed in my stomach as I replayed. The betrayal again. Would this be the truth I so desperately needed to hear? Or yet another layer of hurt? Whatever awaited me, it would surely determine the course of what was left of my shattered dreams. The cliff felt precarious beneath me, and I stood at the edge waiting to see just how deep the fall could be. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden ribbons of light that danced through the window, illuminating the messy remnants of my unkempt life. My heart raced as I opened my mom's message, the uncertainty coiling tighter around my chest. What could possibly be so important? I paced the room, my thoughts a cacophony of dread and curiosity. The promise of clarity waged war against the fear of facing the very people who'd robbed me of my dreams. My phone buzzed again, startling me out of my reverie. Another message from my sister, a photo of her happily cradling a newborn in the new living room of what should have been my space, laughter ringing in the background. The warmth of their joy felt like ice against my skin. Anger bubbled within me as I tossed the phone aside. Was this like a trophy they flaunted just to remind me of my failure? I swallowed hard, my world narrowing down to the sound of my own breathing, shallow and uneven. I forced myself to sit on the bed, allowing my fingers to graze the plate of cookies Mrs. Henderson had brought. Their sweetness felt foreign and distant as I remembered the warmth of her presence. Each bite was an attempt to nourish my spirit, but it tasted of sorrow. There were whispers of kindness, yet I was suffocating in my own storm of bitterness. After what felt like hours, I finally could put it off no longer. I typed a response to my mother. "What's this about?" My thumb hovered over the send button for only a moment, trembling as if it could unravel everything. With a quick press, I released my words into the void, heart racing as I awaited her reply. Silence stretched painfully, the ticking of the clock loud and insistent in the room. I glanced up as the sun began to slip below the horizon, shadows slinking across the walls. I decided I needed fresh air, some kind of escape from the pressure building inside me. Stepping outside, I was greeted by the cool evening breeze and the chorus of crickets filling the air. I walked aimlessly, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts. Did they really understand how crushed I felt? The chill seemed to match the icy grip of my heart, but something curious began to emerge at the edges of my despair. As I rounded the corner, I spotted a flicker of movement. It was Mrs. Henderson pulling weeds from her front garden. Seeing her presence brought with it an unexpected comfort. I approached, the urge to escape my turmoil guiding my steps. "Oh dear," she exclaimed, glancing up in surprise. "Come to help?" I mustered a weak smile, feeling a softness unfurl in the harshness of my reality. "I think I just need someone to talk to." Her brow furrowed in concern, and she nodded, motioning for me to sit on her porch. "I have all the time you need." As I sunk into the sun-warmed chair, Mrs. Henderson offered me a glass of lemonade. The tang of citrus was refreshing, bringing with it a momentary distraction. "I received a message from my mom and I can't help but feel abandoned," I admitted, the words spilling out far easier than I expected. "I feel replaced, like my dreams don't matter anymore." Her eyes softened with understanding, hands resting on her lap. "It's not easy, dear. Families can sometimes be unaware of the pain they cause. Loving someone doesn't mean you always see their heart." I nodded, fighting back a fresh wave of tears. "But how do I tell them what I really feel? How do I make them understand?" "Sometimes honesty is the most painful choice, yet it's the bravest," she replied thoughtfully. "And it might surprise you how your family reacts. They might need to see your struggle to appreciate the depth of your heart." The faint strain of hope rustled within me, creating a contrast against the heavy shadows of my worry. Perhaps sharing my truth might be the first step toward carving a place for myself in the home I lost. As we talked, the night deepened, each shared story weaving a bond, making me feel less alone. Mrs. Henderson gently reminded me of the magic in vulnerability, the power in sharing my journey. But just as I began to feel the warmth of possibility, my phone buzzed. Once more, severing the fragile thread of comfort we'd spun together. It was my mother. "Can you come over now? Please. I need to explain something important." My heart plummeted at her words, the weight of her request pressing down on me. I looked up at Mrs. Henderson, suddenly overwhelmed. What could she want? I whispered, fear gripping me once more. "Whatever it is, dear, you'll face it with your heart open," she encouraged softly. "No, what if I fall apart? What if they don't understand?" A deep breath filled my lungs, drowning under the weight of the flood unleashed. "I'm scared." "Then take that fear and let it guide you. You might just find more than you ever hoped for." With her kind encouragement ringing in my ears, I stood up slowly, glancing back at her as she smiled softly, coaxing the trembling hope nesting in my heart. "Promise me you will find your strength," she urged gently. As I made my way home, the air felt charged with potential and uncertainty. I was caught between fear and hope, teetering at the edge of clarity, waiting for the truth that would shatter my world once more or free me from its chains. As I stepped through my door, I confronted the shadows that lingered in every corner, gut churning with conflicting emotions. I wasn't sure what I'd face, but perhaps it was now or never. And just as I reached to flip the lock, my phone rang again, an unknown number lighting up the screen. My heart raced as I hesitated. In this moment, a wave of conflicting realities slammed over me. Maybe this was just the beginning of my unraveling. The air in the hallway felt thicker as I stared at the phone, my breath hitching in my throat. Whoever was on the other end could either deepen my confusion or pull me back from the precipice of despair. Gritting my teeth, I swiped to answer, my heart a drum echoing through my entire being. "Hello." My voice wavered like a tightrope walker suspended over a chasm. "Is this Ava?" The voice was unfamiliar but filled with a sense of urgency. "Yes," I responded cautiously, the word hanging in the air like a fragile glass ornament. "I am sorry to bother you, but this is Max from Ember Realty. I need to discuss an urgent matter regarding a property you're interested in." My pulse quickened as every thought spiraled toward the proverbial fire. "Which property?" "The one on Maple Street, the dream home you mentioned last month. There's been a development, and I need you to come in as soon as possible." I felt the ground shift beneath me, ice shards crumbling in my chest. The house I had longed for, the one that whispered hopes of new beginnings, felt like an insurmountable cliff I was being pushed toward. What kind of development? The pause that followed seemed to stretch painfully, deepening my dread. "There's been an offer and well, you should really come by to discuss your options. It's urgent. I can't right now." I stumbled over my words, grappling with the weight of the evening's revelations and my impending confrontation with my family. I could hardly process the thought of my dream slipping further from grasp. You need to decide soon. The family interested is very motivated, and it may not wait for you. With that, the ground under my feet felt even shakier, the world tilting dangerously. Just give me a moment, I muttered, trying to conjure an ounce of control as I sank down onto the floor. The phone pressed to my ear like a heavy anchor, memories of my parents washing over me. Laughter and banter around the dinner table, dreams woven into the fabric of family life, the space I pictured myself redefining. In stark contrast, their lack of regard for my heartbreak now loomed larger than any of the ghostly memories I'd once cherished. Ava, are you there? Max's voice cut through my spiral. I'll be there, I murmured, instinctively clenching my fists as if to ground myself against the rising tide of emotions. Can you tell me how soon? Within the hour would be best. I grimaced at the thought of the drive and the confrontation that loomed ahead. I'll be there. Disconnecting the call left a chasm of uncertainty hanging in the air, the thoughts of my mom and sister swarming my mind. Why was everything suddenly unraveling? How had the very house that felt like my sanctuary become a buzzing hive of conflict? In a daze, I made my way back to my childhood room, glancing again at the remnants of my past scattered across the walls. Before I left, I spotted an old box tucked underneath the bed. Intrigued, I knelt down and pulled it out, dust motes catching the low light filtering through the window. Inside lay an array of letters and photographs, remnants of dreams I once held dear. The first letter was from my sister, written years ago when our lives were filled with naivety and the purity of promise. My heart twisted as I read her words, filled with laughter and hopes for the future that felt so distant. Just beneath it was a small photograph of my parents smiling, arms wrapped around each other, radiant in a moment unclouded by strife. The love radiating from their images tinged my anger with fresh layers of sorrow. Perhaps there was still a chance to reclaim my story, to weave my reality back into something that resembled the dreams I once held. Closing my eyes, I took a shaky breath, trying to gather the courage swirling in the pit of my stomach. But just then, as I rummaged through the box, a small folded paper slipped out and fluttered to the floor. I instinctively reached for it, my heart quickening as I recognized my mother's elegant cursive. Unfolding it, I felt a jolt of unease ripple through me as I began to read. Ava, there's something I need to tell you. The words dripped with urgency mixed with a subtle undercurrent of regret. My heart raced as I read on, desperation clawing at the edges of hope. And as I reached the last line, the color drained from my face. I didn't want you to find out like this, but we offered the house to your sister because I couldn't read any further. The realization that the truth lay buried beneath layers of familial expectations and sacrifices crashing down upon me. I stumbled backward, clutching the letter tightly, the revelation cracking open the old wounds I had fought so hard to keep hidden. Just then my phone buzzed again, the sharp sound cutting into the silence like an unexpected thunderclap. I glanced down to see a message from my mother, and a singular word echoed off the walls of my mind. Please. The wheel of fate turned once more, and the encounter that awaited me now loomed larger than life, a tempest brewing at the horizon. The weight of the decision pressed upon me as I realized that not only were my dreams in jeopardy, but perhaps my entire understanding of family was about to fracture irrevocably. The drive to Ember Realty felt eternal, each stoplight prolonging the pulsing ache in my chest. With the letter crumpled in my pocket, I repeatedly reminded myself to breathe, to stay grounded. The raw wound freshly opened by my mother's words gnawed at my insides, a mixture of betrayal and sorrow swirling violently within me. Arriving at the office, I slid from my car, willing my legs to carry me forward. The muted hues of the building seemed to mock my internal chaos, the added weight of my family dynamics threatening to engulf me at any moment. I pushed open the glass door, the sterile scent of fresh paint and paper hitting me with a sense of false reassurance. Max was waiting for me, his expression grave. Ava, I'm glad you made it. His professional demeanor felt ironic given the swirling storm raging inside me. Just tell me what I need to know, please. He gestured toward a small conference room, and we both sat down at a polished wooden table, the gleaming surface reflecting my taut expression. He cleared his throat, tucking a stray strand of dark hair behind his ear. I know this is difficult, but the offer on the Maple Street property is significant. It's a rare opportunity, Is it still available? I interrupted, the desperate question spilling out before I could think. Max hesitated. Yes, but if you want the house, you'll have to make a decision soon. My hands trembled as I gripped the edge of the table, the hardwood pressing into my palms. I don't know how to compete with my own family's offer. The admission hung heavy in the air, a morose testament to my shattered dreams. Believe me, it's not just about the offer, he said softly. It's about timing and the narrative surrounding the place. If you're truly interested, I believe you have a chance. Timing? My voice quivered, a mix of anger and pain boiling over. You know nothing about timing. Test the waters with my family, and you'll find it's treacherous. Max leaned forward, sincerity etched across his features. Ava, at times like this, it's easy to fixate on what isn't working. But let's pivot that energy, let's think about what you can do. The words washed over me, providing a flicker of calm amid the raging storm. There was a path, however narrow, that could lead me back to the dream I fought so hard to claim. Look, he added, why not approach them? Have an honest conversation. You can express your feelings about the home, and what it means to you. His suggestion felt foreign, like trying to navigate a labyrinth without a map. But what did I have to lose? I would rather face my family's judgment head-on than allow them to dictate my path without me. Okay, I agreed, struggling to hold back tears. But I have to tread carefully. He nodded. I'll support you, but if you want the house, I need a decision from you by tomorrow. With no more time to waste, I gathered my things, leaving the office behind and stepping back into the whirlwind around me. My heart raced, an orchestra of fear and urgency playing at full volume as I drove home. The letter seemed to throb in my pocket, a silent reminder of the betrayal that lay within my family. When I finally pulled into my driveway, home felt heavy with ghosts, echoes of laughter and love intermingling with the disquiet that now lingered. My family was inside, their voices rising and falling like a hymn at dusk, reminiscent of a simpler to me a time untainted by spite or secrets. I stepped inside, nerves dancing along my spine. My mother was washing dishes, her back to me, while my sister flipped through a magazine at the dining table, utterly engrossed. For a moment I hovered in the doorway, collecting my thoughts, assembling fragments of courage as I mentally prepared myself for the conversation ahead. Ava, my mother exclaimed, turning to face me with soft eyes. We were just talking about you. Come join us. The warmth of her welcome struck me like a blow, taunting the wall I was carving from their trust. I forced a smile as I slid into a chair at the dining table, a sense of foreboding heavy in the air. Mom, can we talk? I asked, my voice a mixture of vulnerability and resolve. She glanced at me in surprise, a frown creasing her brow, then nodded slowly. Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind? My sister looked up momentarily, her quiet curiosity peeking through the veil of absorbed reading. I felt the weight of my family's gaze upon me, every heartbeat amplifying the tension. About the house on Maple Street, I need to understand what's happening. Waves of silence cascaded through the room, and I could see my mother stiffen, the warmth in her expression shifting to something unreadable. What about it? She asked, cautious yet guarded. I know you made an offer, Ava. I don't think this is the right time. Why didn't you tell me you gave it to Sarah? My voice cracked, the raw truth spilling out like an open wound. Mom, the world feels too fragile right now for secrets. Tension flooded the space, thick enough to choke the air. My mother's face paled, and I could sense the sound of my sister's pages turning had come to a screeching halt. It was never supposed to be like this, my mother whispered. And right in that moment the doorbell rang, a sharp sound slicing through the growing silence. My heart raced. I had no idea who stood at that door, but something told me my life was about to shift yet again. Frozen in my seat, I could see my mother's eyes widen in alarm, the drumming of chaos in my head echoing as if anticipating the next chapter of this unraveling story. The doorbell echoed again, more insistent this time, a flurry of anxiety gathering in my chest as I processed the tension in the room. My mother's face contorted in a mask of apprehension, and my sister's eyes mirrored my own. Uncertainty cloaked every inch of our familial realm. Mom, who is it? I finally managed, the air growing thick with unanswered questions. I don't know, she stammered, glancing nervously toward the door as if it held the secrets of our disarray. The sound of footsteps padded forward, pausing briefly before the door creaked open to reveal a tall figure, casting a long shadow across the threshold. Mila? I exclaimed, a jolt of surprise racing through me as I recognized my best friend. Her usual exuberance seemed tethered, softened by a hint of anxiety. What are you doing here? Hey Ava, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She stepped inside, her eyes darting between us with an intensity that made me feel exposed. I got your text. I thought maybe I could help. Help? My stomach lurched, a whirlwind of confusion and gratitude mingling within me. With what? Without waiting for a response, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. You didn't tell me everything, she said, her gaze dropping to the floor as if afraid to meet the weight of our realities head-on. I found out more about the offer on the Maple Street property. It's complicated. Mila, I don't have time for complicated. My words came out sharper than I intended, laced with an edge of desperation. I'm standing on the brink of losing everything I know, she interrupted gently, taking a step closer, her hand clasped around the crumpled paper like a lifeline. But I don't think it's over yet. Look. She unfolded the paper, revealing a handwritten letter filled with scrawls that raced across the page. They want to turn it into 2 townhouses, and there's a development group involved. Every word she spoke landed like stones, weighing down my already burdened heart. I glanced back at my family, who stood rooted in silence, caught in their own web of uncertainty. What does that mean? They can, and they might. Mila's words came tumbling out, earnest and urgent. But if you can react quickly enough, maybe you can sway the neighborhood association. Use how much the house means to you. You have a chance, Ava. You're not just fighting your family's choice, you could also be fighting for the place that you need to heal. The thought flickered within my chest, a glimmer of hope burning amid the weight of conflict. I glanced around the room, watching as my mother's expression turned from intense worry to something akin to understanding. But before I could grasp that sentiment fully, the doorbell chimed again. My heart sank further, each ding echoing the dread building inside me. Stay here, Mila urged, her voice cracking. I'll see who it is. I have a bad feeling. She pivoted and hurried toward the door, leaving me clutching the table, teetering on the precipice of decisions I didn't feel prepared to make. Anxiety writhed within me. It felt as though I were juggling glass balls, mindful that one wrong move would result in a catastrophic shatter. As she opened the door, my heart raced with fervent prayers that whatever awaited us beyond it would bring clarity instead of further chaos. The visage that greeted her caused my breath to hitch in my throat, an unfamiliar man with sharp features, holding the weight of authority in his posture. Excuse me, I was told that the residents of Maple Street would be here, he stated, looking directly at my mother. I have a legal matter that requires immediate attention. A chill spread through the air, like dark clouds rolling in as the light begins to fade. The man stepped inside, confidence radiating from him like the cold, unfriendly winds of winter. Who are you? My mother asked, her voice quivering slightly as both her and my sister leaned closer. Curiosity morphing into unease. I am from Hillcrest Developments, he announced. We're here regarding the proposed construction on the Maple Street property. I felt the solid ground beneath me buckle, disbelief crashing like waves against the shores of my mind. Construction? You can't even proceed without the neighborhood's approval. I blurted, the tension in my voice ringing out like a damaged bell. The man turned, his expression unchanging, eyes searching mine as if gauging the worth of someone drowning in their own turmoil. Approval has its limits. If the required permits are granted, the future of that house is at stake. His words pierced deep, spiraling my thoughts into chaos once more. Feeling the walls close in, I reached for the edge of the table, desperately anchoring myself in the storm brewing around me. What do you mean at stake? My voice trembled, teetering on the edge of hysteria. Simple, he replied, a dispassionate coolness flowing through every word. Once we acquire it, the place will be transformed. Your family's offer cannot compare. With every heartbeat, a realization dawned like the coming of dawn's harsh light. This fight was about far more than just a house. It was about my past, my family, my future, everything I knew and everything I wanted to rebuild. As I stared at the man, I felt a tide of rage and determination welling within me, a surge of something fierce and unyielding. But even as I grappled with that inner fire, I sensed a shift in the air, a new storm forming, one that could unravel what still tied me to my family. Who will you side with, Ava? Questioned that steady voice in my mind, echoing louder as the tension thickened, threatening to choke out the waning daylight. What choice would I make? The room felt charged, questions hanging as heavy as the last fading rays of the sun. My fate loomed ahead, a churning sea of uncertainty swirling before me. And just like that, the shattering of glass was barely audible beneath the weight of what was yet to come. The echo of the man's declaration still reverberated in my ears, drowning out the sound of my family's disbelief. I turned and saw the shock etched into my mother's face, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the kitchen counter, battling a wave of emotions I could scarcely comprehend. My sister's eyes were wide, mirroring an unspoken anxiety that had taken residence in this space. We were all caught in a storm of choices and memories we hadn't anticipated. Mila stood beside me, her presence solid yet somehow fragile at the same time, her wide eyes locked on the stranger as if he were the harbinger of our fate. "You can't just take it away from us," she blurted out, the quaver in her voice betraying her uncertainty. "This house is home, its heart. You can't destroy that." The man regarded her, an eyebrow raised, as if her words were but a passing curiosity disrupting an otherwise predetermined course. "Home has a price, miss," he replied coolly. "And sentiment doesn't account for much in the business of wood and nails. You have 1 week to gather your resources, or the house will be demolished and replaced." Mila's voice faltered and silence washed over us, thick and suffocating, each of us trapped in our own spirals of thoughts. Time stretched, while the weight of the impending deadline settled like a heavy blanket over the room. My hands balled into fists, the initial shock morphing into an insatiable flame coursing through me. I needed to make a decision, but the implications were overwhelming. "What do we have to do?" My voice emerged steadier than I felt, my heart pounding against my ribcage as the flicker of hope ignited once more within. "What can we do to stop it?" The man's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of something resembling respect or perhaps a challenge, but he shook his head. "That's for you to figure out. The owners before you made a choice, and now the clock is ticking. I suggest you don't waste it." With that, he turned, striding back towards the door, leaving us reeling in the aftermath of his ambivalence. "Wait," I called after him, a sudden surge of bravado pushing me forward. "You can't just leave it like that. We deserve answers." He paused at the threshold, the sunlight spilling in, illuminating the uncertainty that cloaked our lives. "You know where to find me if you seek clarity, though I doubt my answers will offer you comfort." And with those words, he stepped outside, the door swinging closed behind him as if sealing our fates in a suffocating silence. "Mom," I whispered, turning to her. "We can fight this, right? We should at least try." My voice trembled, the flicker of hope igniting even as confusion lingered in the air. Refusing to dissipate. "I don't know, Ava," she said, her tone laced with an almost haunting weariness. "Maybe it was never ours to keep. Your father and I thought we were doing what's right." But now her words trailed off, the weight of her choices hanging heavily, a reminder that we were all still grappling with the past. From beside me, Mila's hand found mine, squeezing tightly, her expression fierce. "Together we can talk to the neighbors, get support. They may understand what the house represents. We can fight for it, your family needs it." But even as we spoke, an uncertainty cloaked my thoughts. Could we rally the neighborhood, convince them? What if they don't care? What if it's too late? "We can't think like that," she urged, her eyes fierce with determination. "We have to believe that we can change things. Every house has a story. This one is ours." As I met her gaze, a flicker of determination ignited within me, and for a moment, it seemed as if we might just be able to carve a path out of this chaos. I could build my future within these walls, reclaim lost memories that echoed through every room. But beneath that glimmer of hope lurked the shadow of our familial tensions, still unraveling among us, binding us not only to this home but also to the fractures we had yet to face. Before we could finalize our resolve, the doorbell rang, a sound that had become a harbinger of chaos and uncertainty. This time, anticipation twisted in my stomach like a tight knot. "Please, not another." But Mila was already moving towards the door. I held my breath, heart racing, desperate for a moment of kindness, a beacon of light in this relentless darkness. When she opened the door, I expected to be greeted by another stranger, another obstruction in our path. Instead, the woman who stood there wore an expression that was familiar yet wrought with worry. Mrs. Henley, our next-door neighbor, a kind soul with a knack for baked goods and breaking tension over coffee. "Ava dear," she said, her voice a lilting note amidst our storm. I heard about the developments on Maple Street. I came as soon as I could. You shouldn't fight this battle alone. Did I in that moment? Something shifted within me. Her presence was a balm to our disarray. Tears prickled at the corners of my eyes as if acknowledging the shockwaves of kindness that rippled through this tumultuous time. Thank you, Mrs. Henley, I whispered, the pressure in my chest lifting ever so slightly. I don't know where to start, but we need all the help we can get. Then let's start at the beginning, she replied, warm and steady, standing tall against the uncertainty that swamped us. But just then, a figure emerged from the shadows behind her, slipping into view. Thomas, my estranged father, eyes filled with a mix of regret and determination. My breath caught in my throat. I heard everything he said, stepping forward. And I want to help. The weight of his presence ignited 1,000 questions. A flood of emotions crashing against the walls I had so carefully erected. What would his involvement mean for our fight? I felt the tumult of emotions peel back the layers of resolve, leaving me teetering on the edge once more. And that moment, as hope intertwined with the remnants of despair, I knew I was standing at a crossroads, uncertain of the destiny lying ahead, yet yearning for clarity and desperate to forge a future. Would this offer of help lead us to the answers we needed? Or would it complicate our fight even further, unraveling the fragile threads that tethered us together? The storm was far from over, and the clock was ticking down. How much time did we have before everything we cherished slipped away? The air thickened with tension as I stood there, caught between the unexpected appearance of my father and the receding warmth of Mrs. Henley's kindness. The room felt suddenly small, reverberating with the weight of unresolved history and ignited hopes, all swirling in a chaotic dance that threatened to overwhelm me. Help? I repeated, the word tasting foreign on my tongue. You want to help after all those years? I couldn't keep the incredulity from spilling into my voice, and it hung in the air like a balloon ready to burst. Anguish mixed with curiosity as I questioned whether any of his words could be trusted. Did I know I haven't been present? Thomas replied, his voice strained yet earnest. There was a tremor in his hands that beckoned a flicker of recognition, an echo of the man I remembered before all the silence. But this is our family home, Ava. I can't just stand by and let them tear it down without doing everything I can to fight for it. Milla's grip tightened around my hand as if needing to pull me back to the moment. What do you mean everything you can? You left. You chose to walk away. The bitterness in her tone sliced through the air. I shared her frustration. How could he simply jump back in? Didn't he understand how fragile our lives had become in his absence? He inhaled deeply, his eyes weary yet determined. I may have left, but I didn't escape the weight of my choices. I owe you and your sister. I owe us all. I want to make this right. Let me show you in this fight we can find a way to heal. A low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, a reminder that even nature couldn't escape the storm brewing within the walls of our home. Amid all this chaos, Mrs. Henley stepped forward, her presence a stabilizing force. We can't lose this house, not just for the memories it holds, but for the community it fosters. If we band together, we have strength in numbers. My heart danced in confusion, torn between wanting to resist this reunion with the man who caused me so much hurt and wishing to believe that perhaps he could help us reclaim something sacred. Can we even trust you? I managed to whisper, my voice cracking with years of abandoned hope. Can you really be counted on? I will do whatever it takes, he said, a hint of sorrow threading through his words. I know that doesn't erase the past, but maybe, just maybe, we can forge a future that honors both it and this house. We can start over. A potent silence fell over us, the weight of choice hanging heavy as I searched for something, anything that could bridge the chasm of hurt between us. But before I could gather my thoughts, Mila broke through the stillness. If we're going to do this, we need to begin now. We can't waste any more time. With a shared resolve anchoring us, I nodded. Okay, let's talk to the neighbors tonight. Let them know what's happening. But this, I gestured toward Thomas, this is a lot. We need to be straight with each other. No hiding. He nodded, eyes filled with the shadow of remorse, and a humility that seemed both rare and raw. No more hiding. As we filed out of the house, stepping under the blanket of dark clouds swirling above, I felt something shift within me. For the first time in a long while, perhaps we had a chance of facing the storm together, imperfections and all. Mrs. Henley led us toward a small gathering of neighbors, already concerned, whispers drifting in the evening air. Each of them wore expressions of worry tempered with steadfast resolve. I was overwhelmed by the warmth of their presence, surprised by the strength I had not expected to find among them. An impromptu meeting ensued, voices slowly melding into a chorus of shared concerns and ideas. Some neighbors offered their time and support. Others suggested ideas on fundraisers, even pamphlets that could garner awareness. Hope flickered, a tiny light igniting in the shadow of despair. But just as I began to embrace that spark, a feeling of doubt crept back in. As we strategized, I noticed Thomas taking a step back, leaning against a tree watching us. I could see he was mulling something over, a tension that mixed deeply in his eyes. Was he regretting returning? Was he considering the consequences of his involvement? "What's the plan, Thomas?" I asked finally, my voice cutting through the ambient chatter like a knife. His gaze snapped to mine, and for a fleeting moment, the air crackled with 1,000 unspoken words. "I have something I need to tell you," he began, voice trembling, forcing me to hold my breath. The neighbors around us continued their animated discussions, blissfully unaware of the unraveling tension. "What is it?" I pressed, suddenly fearful that this newfound alliance could be shattered before it even began. While I was gone, he swallowed hard, as if grappling with an immense weight. "There are things I did that affected the house, our family, and you." My chest tightened, dread curling in the pit of my stomach like an iron knot. What could he possibly say that would change everything, all the hope we had managed to muster? "What do you mean?" He opened his mouth to speak, yet in that instant, the wind howled ominously, drowning his words as a rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. The shadows seemed to creep closer as I awaited his answer, my heart pounding like a wild drum. What could he reveal that would either bind us together or tear us apart once and for all? And as the clock ticked on, the storm within my world could not help but reflect the tempest lurking just beyond the horizon. Could this journey strengthen us? Or would it expose fractures that could never heal? The rain began to fall, gentle at first, but quickly escalating into a grounded cascade that mirrored the tumult within me. I could see the expressions of my neighbors mutating into concern, disbelief crackling along with the energy swirling in the air. I searched Thomas' eyes, yearning for clarity amid the chaos, but all I found was uncertainty coiling beneath his skin like a tightly wound spring. He took a deep breath, the kind that hinted at undoing years' worth of repression, and opened his mouth again. "I thought I could fix it." I didn't want to admit what it meant to actually care, to have responsibility. But I was wrong. He paused, and for a heartbeat, I thought he might reveal the salvation of our home, the history that cradled my childhood dreams. Instead, the words that followed sent chills racing down my spine. "I sold it." The crowd around us, once animated with hope, suddenly fell silent, the whispers trailing off as if they too were struggling to process the weight of his confession. Laughter froze on lips that had been curled with laughter just moments before, and my heart plunged deeper into a hollow pit. "What?" I gasped, stepping closer in disbelief. "You sold our home?" It was as though the very earth beneath my feet began to crumble, the realization bringing forth a flood of confusion and betrayal. "How could you? I thought it was for the best," he said quickly, desperation coating his voice. "I was under pressure. I thought I needed to minimize losses." Minimize losses? I felt the heat to push through, and a swell of anger coursed through me as I battled back the tide of hurt. "You don't think about us at all. This wasn't yours to decide." His shoulders sagged as he looked at the floor, shame etched into his features. For a brief moment, I felt a whispering empathy tugging at my heart, but it was smothered by the realization of what had been lost. Mila stepped toward me, her hand squeezing mine, a thin banner of solidarity in the face of this seismic blow. "What's done can't be undone," she muttered under her breath. "But you can't ask us to trust you with our home if you've already let it go." The words rang hollowly, a jarring reminder that between the flickering hope and an unforgiving past lay a gaping canyon that Thomas had dug deeper by his own actions. As neighbors began to murmur amongst themselves, the storm above us raged more fiercely, with droplets crashing against the ground like frantic hearts. I felt tears threatening to spill as I turned away from Thomas, my breath quickening as I fought the urge to succumb to despair. A small voice broke through the storm's drumming, a soft, gentle whisper that wrapped around my heart. "Ava." It was Mrs. Henley. "Perhaps we should step back for a moment, allow time for clarity." She nodded toward a nearby porch, a small sanctuary offered amidst the chaos. "It's better to regroup and plan how to move forward." We made our way to the covered porch, the canopy shielding us from the heavy rain, even as it poured around us. I felt Mila's hand in mine, grounding me with the conviction that together we could weather any storm. Can you believe him? I spat quietly at Mila, my voice tight with frustration. He took away everything without even asking, and now we're supposed to just trust him? I don't believe it, she murmured, her eyes scanning our neighbors who had gathered closely, their expressions uncertain and wary. But we can't let this crush us. Not yet. We owe it to Mom and to everything we built here. That's easy for you to say, I snapped, irritation punctuating my words as frustration boiled just below the surface. Yet I couldn't ignore the flicker of determination sparking in her gaze. The rain softened slightly, allowing me a clearer perspective. Remember what we've fought for? That's our true home, the love and the memories. He might have sold this house, but he can't erase the fight we have for what it stands for. But do we take the chance to trust him again? Mila asked, searching my eyes for an anchor as I took a breath, bracing against rivalry that intertwined with our shared past. The realization struck me with guttural force. He could destroy us more than he already has, or he could help rebuild us. If that's what he truly wants, she replied, a statement heavy with challenge. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to do anything to dismiss the thoughts swirling like fall leaves caught in the gusts of a strong wind. But that tiny flicker of hope in Mila's voice created an undeniable urgency. Before anything could form, I realized what lay ahead was also an opportunity to confront the ghosts of my past. Drawing in a deep breath, it hit me. We weren't just fighting for a house or reclaiming a space. We were reclaiming the remnants of love, family, and a past that wrapped around us like an embrace. Determined to face it all together, I turned sharply to face Thomas, feeling every ounce of resolve pulse through my veins. Then we can't waste any more time, I said, my voice trembling yet stubbornly strong. It isn't just the house we're fighting for. It's our truth. Your truth. But if you want to rebuild any sort of bridge with us, you need to show us what you've done since you left. A warmth flickered across the coldness of Thomas' eyes. A reflection of something I wasn't ready to hold on to just yet but might learn to see through. But as the rain poured and darkness enveloped our temporary shelter, I felt that all too familiar weight on my chest, a reminder that once the storm settled, the truth would still be waiting, perhaps even more complicated and daunting than I had imagined. And though I felt like we were stumbling toward a resolution, the reality hung just beyond my grasp, a startling revelation that the house wasn't the only thing at stake. The fabric of our family was fraying, and dark secrets whispered on the wind, secrets I feared would alter everything again, once they were finally unearthed. I was driven by a sense of urgency, the storm's thunder echoing the racing beats of my heart as I stood before my father. The weight of his revelation that he sold the house hung between us like a gaping chasm, an unimaginable turn in our already complicated story. I could feel the heaviness in the air, my breath caught in the storm's suffocating embrace, my emotions swirling like debris in a tempest. Once the barriers we had built for protection against one another had begun to crumble, now it felt as though they had completely shattered. With rain pouring down in sheets, the world outside my small sanctuary reflected the turmoil within me. I looked to Thomas, searching for some flash of understanding in his eyes, but all I could find was a shadow of regret, an echo of the man I'd needed him to be for so long. Then, an unlikely calm settled over me as I felt Mila's hand squeeze my own tighter, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this, none of us were. What were you thinking? I asked, the words bitter on my tongue. You took that away from us without ever discussing it. Our home. You let it slip through your fingers, and for what? To save your own skin? I felt something fracture within me with each word, the bitterness threatening to rupture the fragile state of equilibrium we were slowly trying to establish among the chaos. Thomas started, but I cut him off, needing to voice my hurt before I lost my nerve. I don't want excuses, I yelled, the tension boiling over like the storm that loomed above us. I want answers. I want to understand why the weight of your decisions never fell on your shoulders. We could have figured things out together. You could have picked up the pieces of our lives instead of leaving them to scatter. Suddenly, the energy shifted, and I could see an internal struggle boiling within him as he struggled with the burden of his past and ours. I thought it was for the best, he responded, a quiet desperation lacing his voice. The sincerity there stirred a flicker of empathy within me, but I fought against it. I wasn't ready to offer forgiveness. How could I? You thought wrong. You didn't realize that home is more than just a structure. It's about the people and the love we shared, the memories crafted. How could you dismiss that? I pressed, the warmth of anger fueling every syllable. Do you think that you can walk back into our lives now and pretend to be someone you're not? Ava, please, he said softly, a crack in his voice that echoed through me, though I was resolute. I want to make it right. I want to help you fight for your home, for our family. That moment, something shifted within my heart. The storm outside seemed to lighten slightly, gentling its grip. The essence of vulnerability stirred something deep within me. A realization that perhaps I needed to hear him out, to confront the ghosts of my past, to pave a way forward. I don't know if I can trust you, I admitted, a hesitance threading through my voice, but underneath that hesitation was a small spark. An ember of hope. I don't expect you to, he replied, his honesty forcing my heart to crack just a little more. I know I have broken that trust, but I want a chance to rebuild it. We can't change what has happened, but we can change how we move forward. The heavy silence enveloped us as I observed the concerned gazes of our neighbors peeking through the rain-soaked air. Perhaps they had also felt the echoes of abandonment, of decisions made without the input of loved ones. And suddenly it struck me. We were not just fighting to reclaim the home of brick and mortar, but we were fighting for the very essence of our family. With a renewed sense of determination unfurling within me, I turned back to Thomas, vulnerability wrapping around my throat in a choked breath. Then help us, please. We need to act now, not just as a family but as a community. Together. The once clear skies swelled as the urgency of the moment enveloped us, but the desperation had transformed into resolve. Thomas nodded, eyes reflecting what I hoped was a shared understanding as he took a step closer. "I'll do whatever it takes," he promised, sincerity etched deep within his gaze. "I'll reach out to anyone who can help. Those who believed in our family will rally to our side." In that moment, amidst the chaos of rain and the shadows that stretched over our past, I felt that flicker of hope combine with a fierce determination. We had been pulled apart by decisions, betrayal, and secrets, but now I could see a fragile pathway stemming from this darkness. I could almost touch hope, like a bright beacon pulling us through the tempest. "Let's gather the neighbors then," I suggested, feeling the energy lift, changing course from despair to possibility. "We need to present a united front." And together, we stepped out into the night rain, a storm overhead that now felt almost cleansing. We gathered our neighbors under the dim glow of porch lights, sharing our story, inviting them to join us in our defiance. Each face reflected a courageous light, illuminating a belief in community of love, resilience, strength. Yet, as we formed that new bond, the storm settled above us, softening, revealing a hint of moonlight peeking through the shrouded clouds. I glanced up, the beauty in this chaos stretching across the night sky, fragile yet undeniable. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at that moment I realized something profound. We were no longer just fighting for a house, we were fighting for one another. And no matter how precarious the journey may be, we had each other, and together we would discover our way back home, reclaiming pieces of ourselves and weaving together a resilience that could weather any storm. The quiet of acceptance began to spell out its meaning, and deep in my soul, I held tightly to the belief that family could reconnect and heal one piece at a time. As the night gently enveloped us in its embrace, I took a deep breath and whispered, "We will find our way back together."